Good day, everyone, and welcome to our Work 5 group presentation. This session is part of our collaborative translation project where we work together to translate a section of the molecular pathology text from English to Malay. I'm Amir, one of the translator and the group coordinator. Today, my teammates and I will share how we approach the translation process, what challenge we face, and how teamwork help us improve the final outcome.
Hello, my name is Asfa, and I worked as one of the translators. My main focus was ensuring that our translation remained faithful to the scientific meaning of the original text while still sounding natural in Malay. I concentrated on choosing the right vocabulary and sentence structure so that readers from the medical field could easily understand the context.
Hi everyone, I'm Zaib, also part of the translation team. My role was to refine the tone and flow of each paragraph to make sure the Malay version reads smoothly and consistently. I also helped check terminology and grammar during our first review stage to keep the text professional and coherent. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Arif, one of the reviewers. My task is to carefully review the translated sections and correct any grammatical, spelling, or structure issues. I also check that the translated meaning match the original English text. This experience helped me understand how translation is not only about language, but also about accuracy and consistency.
Hello, my name is Iskandar, and I serve as another reviewer in this project. I focus mainly on the technical aspects of the translation, particularly the scientific and medical terminology. I make sure that the terms we use follow accepted standards and remain consistent throughout the report.
Hi, I'm Zafran, the final reviewer and proofreader. My job was to check the entire translated report. After all, revision were made. I focus on overall readability, tone, and cultural appropriateness. I also made sure that the final document looked cohesive, as if it was written by one voice, not six different people.
Thank you, everyone. Throughout this project, we follow several stages. First one, translation, peer reviewer, collaborative error hunting, and final reflection. Each member play an important role in ensuring that our final version was not only accurate but also clear and culturally suitable for Malay readers. Before we dive into the discussion, let me briefly explain the purpose of this project. The main objective was to enhance our translation accuracy, analytical thinking, and teamwork skills. We were required to translate a scientific laboratory report and then work together to revise and analyze it.
Yes, and another key goal was to identify translation errors, such as grammar, terminology, and tone, through peer collaboration. We learned how to justify our corrections and discuss our reasoning openly, which really helped us develop stronger analytical and communication skills.
The process also trained us to think critically about cultural relevance. Translating signs into Malay involve more than literal word changes. It also requires sensitivity to how the information will be received and understood by the local audience.
Throughout this project, I realized how translation connects language, culture, and subject knowledge. On top of that, we needed to balance linguistic precision with natural flow. The teamwork allowed us to spot mistakes that we might have missed individually.
I agree. It also taught us how important discussion and feedback are in translation. Every edit had to be justified logically, not just based on personal style.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning, everyone. Let's begin our reflection session. We will go through three key points: why differences occur between the original and final translation, how cultural and linguistic factors influence the text, and finally, how collaboration improve the result. Let's start with the second point. Since we already viewed the error earlier, Asfa, do you want to start with culture and linguistic influence?
Sure, May. Culturally, Malay writing tends to emphasize modesty and respect. That's why we avoid overly direct or commanding words. In our translation, we replace memerintahkan with memohon or meminta ujian dijalankan. It's not just about being polite, it reflects how Malaysian professionals, especially in academic or medical contexts, communication formally yet courteously.
Right. And the structure of language itself also plays a role. English often uses long sentences connected with words like which, that, or whereas. But Malay writing prefers shorter, more sequential sentence. That's why we broke up the longer English sentence into smaller parts in the final version to match the neutral rhythm of Bahasa Melayu and make the text easiest to read.
That's that's a really good point. From a reviewer's perspective, I noticed that when sentences were too long, the meaning become heavy and unnatural. Dividing them into smaller sentences improved clarity and readability. It also reflected the formal but fluid style typical of Malay academic writing.
I also noticed the role of idiomatic expression. The original text said adds another layer of complexity. The direct translation menambah satu lagi lapisan kerumitan was technically correct, but it sounded a bit stiff. We discussed alternatives like meningkatkan lagi tahap kerumitan, which sounded smoother in Malay. That small adjustment made a big difference in tone and readability.
Exactly. Idiomatic differences between English and Malay can completely change how a sentence feels. A literal translation may be accurate, but stylistically, it can sound foreign. Translators need cultural intuition to know what sound natural. That's something you develop through understand understanding how people in the target culture actually write and speak, especially in formal fields like medicine.
Jangan buka juga.
That brings us to our third. I totally agree. This translation show us that This translation show us that language and culture are deeply connected. Even in scientific texts, tone and phrasing still carry cultural values like respect, formality, and clarity. You cannot separate linguistic accuracy from cultural awareness if you want a translation to sound authentic.
That brings us to our third point, collaboration. I personally think the teamwork among our group made the translation so much stronger. Each person reviewed the text with a different focus, grammar, terminology, tone, and technical accuracy. That diversity of perspectives really helped refine the final version.
Exactly. Where we discuss our edits, we didn't just change words, we explained why we made those changes. For instance, we debated whether kepentingan klinikal or makna klinikal was more suitable. The, through discussion, we agreed that kepentingan klinikal was clearer and more aligned with standard medical terminology. That type of negotiation improved both consistency and understanding.
Yes, and as reviewers, we help ensure that terminology and tone stayed consistent throughout the text. Sometimes, one section might use laporan makmal, while another use laporan ujian. Through peer feedback, we standardize everything so the text read smoothly as one unified piece.
That step made sure our translations still match the technical meaning of the original English guidelines. It's something that would be very hard to do alone.
Teamwork also helped us unify the writing style. Each translator naturally has their own tone. Some more formal, others more descriptive, but reviewing each section together, we managed to make a final translation sound cohesive and professional. It felt like one consistent voice instead of three separate translators.
Exactly. Translating something as complex as a molecular pathology text requires precision, subject knowledge, and cultural sensitivity. Through collaboration, we balance all of those. The final translation wasn't just correct, it was also polished, professional, and reader friendly.
Personally, I have learned that translation is a bridge between disciplines. It's not just about converting language, it's about communication, ethics, and understanding how knowledge is shared across cultures. Even small choices in wording can influence how scientific information is perceived.
Yeah, that's true, Aswa. I also gained a deeper appreciation for the responsibility of translators. One small mistake in medical or scientific text could mislead readers. That's why teamwork and multiple review stages are crucial. It reminded me of how research papers go through peer review before being published.
For me, The culture aspect was eye-opening. I used to think scientific writing was purely objective. But now I see that culture still shapes how we communicate. Translating into Malay means respecting not just grammar, but also the tone and style expected in our academic community.
I agree. I also learned that literal accuracy is not always the best goal. What really matters is functional equivalence, making sure the Malay version gives readers the same understanding and impression as the original. That sometimes means adapting sentence structure or rephrasing entirely.
Yes, and this project also showed how essential revision is. No first draft is ever perfect. Every round of feedback made the translation clearer and more accurate. It's similar to lab work. You test, refine, and review until the results are reliable.
Beautifully said. Everyone, I think our biggest takeaway is that translation is both a science and an art. The science part is precision and terminology. The art part is how we express idea naturally and respectfully. Balancing both requires collaboration, cultural awareness, and linguistic skill.
So, to summarize, the main differences between the original and final translations occurred due to linguistic, grammatical, and tonal adjustment. We refined vocabulary to fit scientific conventions and instructed sentences for better flow.
Culture and linguistic factors also shape our decision. Malay academic writing values politeness, clarity, and organized structure. We adapt the text accordingly.
And collaboration played a key role. Through peer feedback, we ensured consistency, accuracy, and tone unity across the translation.
Yes, and by verifying terms and structure collectively, we produce a version that's accurate both linguistically and technically.
That's a good point. In the end, our translation become not just a literal copy, but a culturally appropriate and professionally readable document suitable for all Malay speaking professionals in the medical field.
Exactly. Excellent discussion. Everyone, we cover linguistic, cultural, and collaborative aspect in depth. This reflection clearly shows that translation is multidisciplinary effort, connecting language, science, and culture. Great job, team. I think, and that will conclude our meeting for today. So, thank you.
Um,